Good evening, friends and esteemed guests. My name is Cadet Kacharik from Detachment 855, Bravo Flight, and this evening I will be giving a prepared briefing on a career field in the United States Air Force. The career field that I will be giving this briefing on is an Airfield Operations Officer, also known as a 13M career field in the United States Air Force. In this briefing tonight, I will focus on the overview of what an Airfield Operations Officer is, a little bit about the training that they go into, as well as the daily tasks and duties that they have in order to carry out their missions. Firstly, an Airfield Operations Officer is the face of the airfield at any given time. They're the go-to officer and they're the leader at the airfields at any given base. They're the most knowledgeable individuals at the airfields, and they're required to know these things, seeing as how they're a leader at the airfields. There are very few officers in this career field, and because of that, there's a lot of training that goes into this. At any given wing, at any given time, there are only about 2 officers that are Airfield Operations Officers. A little bit about their training now. There are about 9.5 weeks of training that go into becoming an Airfield Operations Officer, or roughly 80 days of training. This training is usually carried out at Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi. During this time, they're taught and instructed about the different policies and basically how to manage an airfield. This job, just like any other job as an officer in the United States Air Force, is focused on leadership. They are the leaders of an entire group of people and airmen that work under them. And what they do is carry out missions at an airfield. An Airfield Operations Officer works as a liaison to everyone on the base who needs access to the airfield. This can also be civilians that need access to this airfield at any given time. An Airfield Operations Officer performs and leads airfield operations functions of air traffic control and airspace management. This is one of their main duties and main functions as their job. They also advise commanders on the effective use of airfield operations assets. They can advise other leaders as well as civilian leaders as well. They also provide staff leadership, supervision, and technical assistance to the people that work underneath them. As well as doing that, they develop and implement plans, policies, and programs for executing Air Force airfield operations activities. This is one of their main functions as an Airfield Operations Officer. Some of their day-to-day duties include ensuring the safe takeoff and landing of aircraft. This aircraft, as I mentioned before, can be military aircraft as well as civilian aircraft. They also work in maintaining navigational aids, and they perform inspections to ensure that the entire airfield is working at 100%. In the Air Force, we have excellence in all we do, and these inspections that they perform ensure that there's excellence in the airfields. They also communicate with air traffic control to ensure that the communication is close to perfect between the pilots and the men on the ground. And lastly, they work with navigational maintenance to ensure that pilots can get to and from the bases at any given time. As I have mentioned, the Airfield Operations Officers are essential in the operations of any airfield at any given time. And I invite every single one of you guys to look into and see if an Airfield Operations Officer career is something that you guys would be interested in. And this concludes my briefing. Are there any questions?